Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast, brought to you by the Healing Institute. I'm Parmelia Parham. I'm the founder of the Healing Institute, and we are an online worldwide hub of holistic practitioners. We really want to make a difference in health and healing in the world. I created the Healing Institute because, first of all, called it an institute because I'm passionate about educating people around how to be well and how to stay well on their health journey. Because let's face it, we are all on a health journey. And I've been using holistic ways of being well for over 30 years, so I know that they work. The practitioners we have on our website are all looking to help you get to the root cause of what's going on. We've used a medical model for the last 50 odd years, and it's not working anymore. And mainly, I believe it's because we were only looking at symptoms. We were not looking at what was creating those symptoms. So this has been just a wonderful way to really reach out to the world with health and healing. And mainly it was because of a tragedy that we had in our family a few years ago. My mother passed away at age 61, and it was due to complications with a medication that she had been on for a very long time. And we had no idea that staying on this medication for a long time would affect her kidneys. Unfortunately, she passed away on December 15th, right before Christmas, and I was 5 months pregnant with my son. And I say it's not only a tragedy that she died so young, but my children didn't get to meet their grandmother, and I don't want that happening for any other families. So I've created the Healing Institute. We are inviting holistic practitioners from all over the world to be part of our platform so that we can be available for people who are looking for alternative ways of being well and staying well. Now, this is our 103rd episode, which is very cool. We have been doing this now I've been doing this podcast now for over 2 years. And I like to have a theme every month. So August, I decided would be Awesome August. And we've had some fabulously awesome guest co-hosts to launch the podcast every week. And we are actually you're going to meet a really fabulous woman today. Her name is Tippy Missick, and she is a Neurofitness Academy with Neurofitness Academy. That's her company. And we're going to learn about uniquely wired brains, which I love that phrase and that description. Yes, so we're going to talk about chaos to calm for our theme of August, Awesome August. Tippy, welcome. I'm just delighted to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Parmelia. It is such a pleasure and honor to be with you today.
So tell us a little bit about you, how you came to the realization of uniquely wired brains. And, our audience also likes to know a little bit about some of the clients that you've worked with and how you've helped them.
I would be thrilled to share. So the funniest thing is I have ADHD, and I wasn't diagnosed, but I knew it because I was so different from everyone else. I come from a family of 8, and I think I was the only one that couldn't sit still, always had to talk back to my parents because I knew I was right. And they didn't understand who I was because the problem with children with uniquely wired brains is that they're so different. They're different in a good way. A lot of people think that children with ADHD are broken, but the reality is we are not broken, we're gifted. So this passion has driven me to begin my coaching program. I also have a background in fitness. I've been a fitness professional for 51 years, and I thought, what a great combination.
Absolutely.
I know what movement does for the brain. So why not teach everybody else?
Well, that is just a remarkable story. I love that story. And when did you discover that you had a uniquely wired brain? I mean, you knew it intuitively as a child, but what led you to actually get a diagnosis? And when was that?
It was just about 2 years ago.
Oh my, yes.
Yes. And I had been working with kids, and I saw things in these children that reminded me of myself.
Mhm.
So I would talk to them, and we would just talk back and forth. And that was when I knew it was time to find out for sure. But I knew, I
Yes,
knew.
absolutely. And I love the work that you're doing because you're actually helping parents understand their children with uniquely wired brains because they are different. Yes, my oldest daughter was diagnosed, I think, in her teens with ADHD. And, I mean, she's just, all my children are remarkable, but, the things that she has done, she hasn't ever used it as a handicap. She's just gone out beyond and she was that kind of child. She never sat still. Um, which her older brother was the one who was very calm. And so you can't sometimes when you have more than one child, oh, I know we're not supposed to do this, not compare, but like, oh, well, they're different. So I was very fortunate when she was quite young that a very good friend of mine who knew Myers-Briggs just said, Premilia, she's not the other people in the household. She is completely different, and that really helped me see her in that light. And I think that's the work that you do with parents, helping them understand their children and helping them see their children as unique human beings.
Yes. And, you know, as parents, we don't know what to expect no matter what child we're given. And
Exactly.
so,
There's
yeah.
no
And
course to
so,
take. Yeah.
right, right. And there's all these strategies that are just traditional strategies. And as a young mother, you know, I just followed those, not knowing that my son also has ADHD, a different form because it shows up many different ways. And now his two children have ADHD. So it's definitely something that can be in the genes. But it's such a gift to have a uniquely wired brain because we're more creative. We're not afraid of experimenting and trying a variety of different things. We're looked at as scattered, uh, unable to focus, wiggly, all those crazy things. But the reality is, it's such a gift and such a blessing to have ADHD. It's just finding out where you fit in this world.
Well, and to look at it as a gift, I think that is such a remarkable way of explaining that, not only to the child but also to you as a parent, because we have this concept that we want our children to fit into these little these little ways we think that they're square or round or whatever, and when they don't, then we think, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong as a parent? So you're questioning yourself and so just to understand that, it is a gift because, I don't have a list, but I have read about a lot of different famous people who had ADHD or were in the autism spectrum and have done such remarkable things um, throughout history. So I wanted to just recognize we have some guests today, which I'm delighted to have. Um, and so I just want to recognize them. So Almari is from South Africa. She's one of our practitioners, and she's another person that you really want to connect with, Tippy, because she's got some remarkable skill sets around helping people with boundaries and uh, other things that she's doing. Marie Piplovic also, I know you've met her before, and Marie's from Portland, Oregon in the US. Marie actually has a question. What were the main symptoms or experiences that you knew was a sign that you were uniquely wired?
So really, the first one was the fact that I couldn't sit still. I always had to be moving and be active. I remember in school, I would be wiggling and I'd be staring out the window, looking at what was out there and wanting to be out there. And I went to a Catholic school, so I ended up punished for my behavior. And virtually every day I was after school clapping those erasers as my punishment, which didn't do any good because it wasn't addressing my uniquely
No,
wired.
yeah,
No, as a matter of fact, I made fun. I made it fun.
of
I
course,
I
because you
made
were being creative. If I have to be after
exactly.
school getting the chalk off these erasers, then I'm
Yes,
gonna make it fun. Well,
and I did.
I also want to recognize another wonderful woman from all the way coming to us all the way from the UK. And so Shama Karina is here, and she has been teaching um, people with uniquely wired brains. And so we're very delighted to have Shama here today as well. She's made a lovely comment. She says, God sends, oops, I
Mhm.
just missed it. God sends special children to special parents. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Shama.
Beautiful.
Um, and she had a question. Was it easier for you to recognize your son's symptoms?
No, and I'll tell you why. There are a variety of ADHD labels, okay? Some kids, like my grandson and my son, are very cerebral, and they're able to sit still, but they just are so laser focused on what they're doing that if anybody interrupts them, that's when their emotional dysregulation shows up
Mhm.
because they're so focused and you interrupt that focus and that's when they become emotionally, you know, active. So the two of them are exactly the same. And then my youngest grandson is like me, can't sit still, can't stop talking, just blah 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 blah. And it's awesome. I just love being with them.
Great question, and thank you for explaining that because I had heard as well that there's different types of ADHD, and it's a lot of people think about it as they describe it as not being able to sit still and being
Mhm.
hyperactive, but there is that other type of ADHD as well where you are laser focused. You might not be able to organize yourself as well as you'd like to
Right,
be organized. But when you're
right.
focused on something, there's nothing else that you want to take away from that focus.
And that focus can last 5 minutes to 5 hours.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
you don't want to interrupt a uniquely wired child when they're in the middle of their laser focus because it will be disruptive.
Yes. And that's their creativity. That's what's coming out
Mhm.
in them at that particular time is that's how they're demonstrating their creativity. So
Right,
that's very,
right,
very, very important as well.
right.
So
And
Tippy, explain to us how you introduce the fitness part into the work that you do.
absolutely. So, one of the things that people need to understand is that the brain and body are actually connected, and
Yeah.
it has everything
Hello.
to yeah,
Yes.
everything to do with what you eat, what you wear, what you think, what your interests are. So, if I can teach parents the power of movement, then they're already one step ahead. They spend most of their time researching and reading and doing all this stuff, but the reality is when a child has a meltdown, no matter where it is, if you start doing something silly like this, it's going to totally distract them. They're going to mirror what you're doing, and then the calmness sets in. So I discovered that when I was working with some kids at a special school, and we would do all the regular exercises, but then we'd have one or two that couldn't do it and they'd get frustrated. So we would kind of just change. I'm kind of like showing you different things
Mhm.
that we would do. And just a simple movement changes their brain because it's working with both sides of the brain,
Right.
both hemispheres. And so a simple movement that crosses the body will regulate the child's emotions.
Oh, I love the way you explained that, because that is so true. And now we have got so much more information and science around how our bodies are connected many years ago, we thought the brain was the be all and the end all. It did
Mhm.
everything. And we hadn't really understood how the brain and the digestive system for sure. So I know we had an example with our daughter when she was in, I think, grade 2, where she was really hyperactive in the afternoon. So we were looking at the different foods that we were feeding her.
Oh,
That was kind of
yes.
one of the first things that we were looking at. And we realized that we were giving her some these little Smartie chocolates as a treat to have, like for her dessert at lunchtime. So once we realized, we thought, well, let's not do that. And then let's see if there's a change. And sure enough, there was. So she just didn't need that extra stimulation, which of course now we know chocolate, does give you that extra stimulation. So she just didn't need it at that time, because then she wasn't able to sit still, for her
Mhm.
afternoon classes. So now we know way more. My daughter just turned 36 yesterday. So we know so much more now about digestion and food and how food affects us, not only physically, but affects our brain.
Oh, absolutely. And the funniest thing is, you could give the chocolate to another child with a uniquely wired brain, and they would be fine. It would be exactly what they were looking for because may have been on a low in their
Right.
day. But the trick is to figure out what little tips and tricks that you can do for your particular child and understanding the difference between holistic and medicine.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying anything bad about medicine, but I know for me, the less medicine I get into me, the better I feel. So
Yes.
I focus on nutrition and movement. And I do have a free ebook that you can get if you go to my website. And it's all about the benefits of nutrition and how to create the nutrition specifically for your child's ADHD.
Wonderful. Yes, and we're going to put your website in the chat and how to connect with you. Marie's got a great question here. Does your work help these uniquely wired kids stay off all the drugs that in the past at least were offered prescription, or do the drugs really help these children? I guess it depends on the child, but
Yes. So the reality is the medication is, in my opinion, a last resort because if we can try every single thing
mm,
physiologically, and physically, we will see changes. But my grandson was put on the medication because my daughter-in-law and son didn't know how to deal with it, and of course, the doctors suggested. He was like a zombie. He lost his personality, and he just zombie is the only way I can explain it. And our children deserve to live their lives 100% and to share their
absolutely.
gifts and their personalities. And if medication is going to change a child that much, then we need to think about how we are going to work with our children. And I've never put any of my kids on any medication that I felt would change their personality because it's not fair to them and it's not fair to us as their family. So,
Yes, and I think that was a big tragedy back a number of years ago, where these amazing children were trying, either they didn't when they didn't sit still in school, so they were then recommended that they be on this medication just to, I think, was easier for the teachers and easier maybe even for the parents, but that wasn't easier for the child. That wasn't addressing really what was going on with the child. Yeah.
no,
Um,
it just covers it up. And the reality is, if your child is a zombie, then they're not going to take in anything that good or bad
no,
that
no.
comes into their lives because they just have no emotion. They have nothing. I would much prefer to have my child have a meltdown and then do some jumping jacks to stop it than to have him always walking around not in himself.
Yeah. And that's what Marie was saying. That's what she saw with her family members. They were just very, no personality, very zombie-like. Yeah, and it's very difficult to see that when I had a very good friend who one of her sons had been diagnosed with ADHD, and that's what they did. They put him on the drug that was very popular back in those days, and um, it did completely. He was a fun little boy, lots of energy, and it really changed his personality. So, um, I think we have another great question here. I'm just trying to find it. Yes, Shama says we often forget that we need, let me just see if I can pull it down a bit. We often forget that we need to understand and adjust and not the uniquely wired brains. This is the awareness that's so important, and that is work that Shama does. So yeah, so we need to be aware as parents and teachers and society. We need to be more aware how these children um, are thinking and how their brains work, so that we can make the adjustment for them, so that we can accept them and assist them to be part of society and to be happy, because that it's a very tragic thing to see a happy-go-lucky child turned into a zombie, for want of a better word.
Exactly. And that's actually what I do. I work with parents of children with uniquely wired brains, because if I can help them understand how special their child is, even though they do have difficulties, and I can share with them how they can bring back what they want, the love and the connection that they feel that they've lost because they've tried traditional strategies. So it's just a matter of me working with the parents, understanding what the children's personalities and what activities they're into, and then teaching the parents that the best thing to understand is your child is not broken, and you didn't do
Exactly. Yeah.
and you didn't do anything wrong to make this child the way this child is. The reality is God brought this child into the world for a reason, and shame on us for not seeing that as a beautiful gift. There are so, like you said, I know Robin Williams had ADHD, and I believe Albert Einstein did, but don't quote me on that. But there are many, many, many people who are famous for inventions and things, and their parents didn't understand them either, but somehow they were able to get, get the
Survive
help
in our
they
world,
needed.
and yeah, then
Yeah,
look at the remarkable things. And I really should do a bit more research and get a list of all of the amazing accomplishments that people are known for, as
right.
well as just ordinary folk like you and me,
Yeah,
but the amazing accomplishments that people have done, and probably they might not have been diagnosed as ADHD, or nobody knew that they actually had ADHD, but they still did remarkable things, very creative,
remarkable.
remarkable things. Yeah.
I'd love to share this story about a little boy that I was working with. He is brilliant and he has ADHD, but it's the type of ADHD where he is just laser focused. So I was trying to get through to him that there's so much more to life than being laser focused. Well, this young man, he's 13, is bound and determined to be an astronaut. And so he goes to space camp every year, and his dream is to graduate from space camp when he's 18 and step right into the role of engineering in college.
Mhm.
And he's so determined that his parents gave him a 3D printer for Christmas.
Gosh.
You don't give a 3D printer to a kid who's laser focused. He has made so many rockets, and he and his dad go and they shoot them off. And the kid is going to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
or he is going to be working for NASA because of his ADHD. So when you hear a story like that of a wonderful young man who could go either way, but yet is so focused on becoming
Yeah.
an astronaut and doing it, and you see it in him. I mean, it's
And how wonderful
incredible.
that his parents are supporting him in that. Shama
Oh, his
says,
parents,
bravo. Yes, bravo.
yes, his
Absolutely.
parents are amazing. Yeah. And it's just because they understand they've taken the time, maybe
Hmm.
not to sit and read all these books and figure it out, but they know how important movement is in a child's life. And they keep these kids moving. They keep their
Yeah.
children always moving.
And we
It's
do
so
know how
important.
important that is for the the melatonin and the other chemicals that are in our brain. We know that we know laughter really helps change the
Yeah.
chemicals in our brain for the
Yeah, the
good.
serotonin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So, so it's so important then for children to move. And uh, I just have to say, my daughter that I was mentioning before, she's a climber. So
oh,
she climbs mountains. Her and her husband climb mountains. So it's pretty
it's the best.
amazing. Just,
And it's funny because my grandchildren with the ADHD and their dad climb all the time. And it's a sport that not only feeds your body, but it feeds your mind. And
mhm.
it's all that's a perfect example of the laser focus part of
Yeah,
ADHD. Because one minute of not being focused and you could be a goner.
yeah,
Yeah.
very,
So
very
that's yeah.
very important that you be
It's
focused on where you're putting your all your equipment and where you're putting your feet and how you're
in
actually climbing
hands
up that
and
mountain.
yeah, and no rock is the same. So you have to figure out different handholds and different footholds. And, it's definitely something that takes a person with laser focus to be successful at.
That's I'm so glad you shared those stories with us because that really helps our listeners understand, how people can work with their children that have ADHD, or if they don't even know, if they haven't been diagnosed, but they have these symptoms that we've described today, that could be a first step for them to understand that, and not try to create them into being less than what they already are, because they are amazing, amazing human beings. And that, I think, is what is so wonderful about the work that you do, Tippy, is because you're really, really helping parents and schools and teachers, and society overall understand, and giving these children, that calling them, and describing them as having uniquely wired brains is so positive. I love that, because it gives them some uniqueness that they're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. So
Exactly. And that's the one thing I really want to put out there, that parents of uniquely wired brains often are overwhelmed, feel isolated, and
mhm.
feel like they've done something wrong. But the reality is, you did nothing wrong, parents. You did everything right. You just need to learn the proper strategies for your child.
Yeah.
And that's where I can help.
Absolutely. So we've got your contact information, your website, and also your LinkedIn profile in the chat. I'll make sure that that information gets sent out when we
Thank you.
post this podcast later. And Tippy, thank you so much for coming to the show today and explaining, about uniquely wired brains. Our vision here with the Healing Institute, we have a community of really expert health professionals and practitioners. And those people that come to the Healing Institute to connect with them, you are going to get a unique experience. It's not one fits all. We don't do any cookie cutter. Whatever your requirements are, that's how we meet you. Our motto here at the Healing Institute is service with love. And we have a big ask. We would like you to share this podcast with your friends and family and colleagues. Let them know about us. Let them know about the Healing Institute and our fabulous practitioners, and share this very, very inspiring podcast with them so that they will understand and can learn more about people with uniquely wired brains. So today you got to meet another amazing guest co-host that I have, Tippy Missick. Thank you again, Tippy, so much for being part of the podcast.